All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as we go mock draft 3.0. It's mock draft Monday here on the Krug Show. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in both spots from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. We're also brought to you by MarinAutoglass.com. Check out MarinAutoglass.com and, of course, Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use the promo code Krug, and we will match you up to your first $100. And we're also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles, 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California. Call Anthony Catania at 831-521-5264. We're also sponsored by Aura, and we'll tell you more about them in a minute. All right, it is time. The combine has come. The combine has gone. And we do a mock draft on every Monday between now and the draft. This is our third effort. Today, we are using the Pro Football Focus mock draft simulator. And this is all coming post-combine. So we have some thoughts on who did what at the combine and how it all shakes out. Excuse me, I've also never done a Pro Football Focus mock draft this year. So I'll, be having to look at how they have the players ranked, which is different in different mock drafts. We've used Pro Football Network. We've used, I think, Pro Football Database. And this is the first time we're using Pro Football Focus. All right. So we set everything up, put the settings, pretty much random. We also, there's potential for trades, but I'm not going to lean that way. I'm going to try to just pick and go. So we're going to start the draft. Bears are on the clock, and here we go. Now, before we do any of that, we probably should share the screen so you can all see the Pro Football mock draft on the screen. There we go. There you go. Look at that. Look at that. We're all sitting there waiting for round one. All right, here we go. We're going to start the draft. I made it go fast, and here we go. And we're off and running. And now we're at the pick 31. So let's see who went in front of us. And I like the Pro Football Focus mock draft already just by looking at it because they have Peyton Wilson going 30th, and he had a tremendous combine workout, and there's no question that he's probably going to be a first-round pick. Most of the mock drafts had him in round 2 or round 3. They also have Brian Thomas gone. Let's take a look. It starts with Drake May to the Bears, Marvin Harrison to the Commanders, Caleb Williams to the Patriots. Whoa, they've got Cooper DeJean going 4 to the Cardinals. Malik Neighbors 5 to the Chargers. Jim Harbaugh's first pick there. Rome Odunze to the Giants at 6. There's a lot of talk that Ayuk, if the Giants want to make a trade, may go with Ayuk or may offer that pick to the 49ers for Ayuk. Brock Bowers, the kid from Napa, goes to the Titans at 7. Nate Wiggins, who looks so skinny to me, running that incredible combine time. They have him going 8th to the Falcons. Seems a little high. Fashanu from Penn State to the Bears at 9 as they upgrade the offensive line. The Jets at 10 going with Quinyon Mitchell, who's a tremendous corner from the University of Toledo, had 4 picks in a game. The star of the combine in my mind was Terrion Arnold from Alabama. He was one of the stars. The way he talked about his mother and that whole speech, I mean, that was amazing. He's going 11 in this mock draft to the Vikings. Jaden Daniels falls to 12. Denver gets Jaden Daniels at 12. That's a steal. Raiders go Dallas Turner at 13. Byron Murphy goes to the Saints at 14. Jerzon Newton goes to the Colts at 15. Jackson Powers Johnson, the top center, goes to the Seahawks as they continue to rebuild their offensive line at 16. Jared Verse to the Jags at 17, the pass rusher from Florida State. Talieisi Fuaga, who I know the Niners would love to have. He just had a phenomenal combine. He's a great prospect. He goes 18 here to the Bengals. Joe Alt falls down to 19. There's no chance that's happening to the Rams. If Joe Alt is there at 19, I would, if I were the 49ers, I would trade up. But the Rams get him at 19, according to this. Graham Barton to the Steelers at 20. Wow, in this mock draft, Joe Alt and Graham Barton go back-to-back. Liatu goes to the Dolphins at 21. J.C. Latham to the Eagles at 22. Wow. What if the Eagles get J.C. Latham at 22? That would be amazing. Troy Fatanu, who I really love as well after watching his workout in Indy. What speed Fatanu has, and he's just such a seek and destroyer. He goes to Dallas at 24, their replacement for Tyron Smith, who's leaving in free agency. Tyler Nubin, a safety from Minnesota, goes to the Pack at 25. Tyler Guyton goes to Tampa at 26. So that's a tackle that should interest the Niners. Amarius Mims goes 27 to the Cardinals, another tackle. Enos Rakestraw, the corner, goes to Buffalo at 28. Then Brian Thomas, who I love, the LSU wide receiver, goes 29, and Peyton Wilson goes 30. So the Niners are on the clock at 31. And they're looking at a board that includes some really interesting players. Kool-Aid McKinstry, really good corner, though he has an injury right now. J.J. McCarthy, the quarterback, who I do think is going to be off the board at this point, but for this mock, he's there. Ladd McConkey from Georgia, interesting receiver. Zach Frazier from West Virginia, maybe the best center, I think, in the draft is Frazier. And Niners, do they need a center? This guy is an awesome prospect. I love him. I love Zach Frazier. Bo Nix from Oregon's on the board here. TJ Tampa, very physical corner from Iowa State. Adonai Mitchell, big receiver from Texas. Braswell, the athletic edge rusher from Alabama. Keon Coleman, the wide receiver from Florida State. Jordan Morgan, I know Jesse's a big fan of his, kind of a short arm tackle from Arizona. Jatavion Sanders, the tight end from Texas. Adisa Isaac, Kamari Lassiter, who's a great athlete corner from Georgia. Chop Robinson, the edge rusher who had such a great workout this weekend from Penn State. Darius Robinson from Missouri, who's an edge rusher. Kingsley Sumatea from BYU. Michael Penix. Roman Wilson, Edgerrin Cooper. All right. In this mock draft, God, this is really tough because so many of the players that I really like are right there. And I like Rukaroro or from Clemson. I love him. I would take him in the first round for sure. So he would normally be my first round pick. But here's the bottom line on this thing. I gotta be true to the actual future here. And now I love Darius Robinson. I love Aurora. There's some good tackles there. But Michael Penix Jr., I think, is the best quarterback in the draft. And even though you got Brock Purdy, how do you pass on Michael Penix he just was awesome in Indy, and he was great in the regular season. And I really think he's the best quarterback on the board. So I'm going to go Michael Penix and figure out the rest later on. I know that's not going to make Niner fans happy with Penix right there, especially with Purdy being established, but you're going to eventually be able to trade Michael Penix for so much more than this pick that I think that's the best decision right there. All right, now we're on the board at 63, and the bad news is that Rukaroro just went one pick before to the Ravens. And Xavier Worthy's off the board, and Braden Fisk is off the board, and Jonah Ellis is off the board. He's a great pass rusher. Mikey Sainristil from Michigan's off the board. He's a terrific corner, not to mention Chop Robinson, Darius Robinson. All those guys are now gone. So now I'm looking at a board. Let's see who's the best player on the board here. All right, they need offensive tackle, but they also need a defensive lineman, and they could probably use another receiver. And now you're staring at a lot of good receivers here. So you got the Yale developmental tackle. You've got some interesting players here. I'm going to go with Xavier Legette. I mean, to me, you're looking at some interesting wideouts. You got Johnny Wilson, Xavier Legette, Brendan Rice, Malachi Corley, all sitting right there. Those are all really good receivers. But to me, Xavier Legette at 230 pounds running in the 4.3s, that's a difference maker right there. So I'm going to take Xavier Legette. So even though I have needs on offensive line and defensive line, and I've got a loaded receiving core and Brock Purdy, I've gone quarterback and receiver to start this draft. So we're not off to a blazing start. We don't have our tackle. We don't have our D line. We've invested our 2 top picks. Lots of Niner fans are screaming and they're mad. Now we're here at 94. And Renardo Green just went off the board. He's one of my favorite corners. Devondre Sweat, Javon Solomon, players that I would have had interest in. Cameron Kitchens, Brendan Rice. But I do have a dynamic receiver, and I do have an incredibly valuable piece, I think, in Michael Penix. And now I'm looking at the board. Now, I love Mason McCormick, the guard from South Dakota State. But value, I love Michael Hall, the D lineman from Ohio State. He's right there. Ray Davis, the running back. I mean, I can't go running back here. But All Day Ray is really one of my favorite players in the draft. Tremendous running back. Max Melton, the corner from Rutgers, might be my pick here. I'm really debating between Michael Hall and Max and Max Melton. I'm going to go Max Melton. Max Melton is a true dominating corner, runs in the 4.3s and hits like a truck. I'm not going away from Max Melton. Now I picked 98. So I just picked at 94. So now I get a quick turnaround. So I can come back. I can go Mason McCormick if I want to go guard. Let's see how the tackles are looking right here. I could go Christian Jones from Texas. I can go Javon Foster from Missouri. I can go Ladarius Henderson from Michigan. Caden Wallace from Penn State. There's a lot of good tackles on the board there. Anthony Belton from NC State. I really like him. So I've got some decent tackle options there. So if I just go all, I'm looking at Michael Hall, who's a tremendous 17% pass rush win rate at Ohio State. I think he led the nation this year. Michael Hall is really nice. Bo Limmer is a good interior offensive lineman. Christian Jones, Muhammad Kamara. These are all good players. McKinley Jackson is a nose guard. You could put him up front. He's a good run stuffer. Ben Sinat's a good tight end. Malik Washington. Mason Smith's a big defensive lineman. I've already gone. I think I'm going defensive line here. And I think I'm going Michael Hall. I just think he was so active, so productive. He's just such a good player. Now I'm on the pick at 132, and Muhammad Kamara just went, who's one of my favorite edge rushers. I still haven't gone offensive tackle. I'm looking at the board. I love Mason Smith, the gigantic defensive lineman from LSU. I love DJ James, who had the game-clinching interception to beat California. Cooper Beebe is a guard who just loves to destroy. But, I mean, do I take a guard before I take a tackle? Isaac Guerendo is a good running back. Maybe could be a fullback. Joe Milton's on the board if I wanted to go quarterback. No, I'm not going quarterback again. Javon Foster, James Williams. Those are good picks. Man, I think I'm going D-line again with Mason Smith from LSU. He was a 5-star guy. He's 6'6", 315. He's a wrecker. Absolute wrecker. All right, now I'm on the board at 176. What do I do at pick 176? Very difficult to decide what I want to do here. So now I'm looking at Luke McCaffrey staring me in the face, but I already got a receiver. I still don't have my offensive line. Cody Schrader is a good running back. Kamal Haddon. There's some good players. Trevor Keegan is Michigan's captain. He's a guard, though. Ladarius Henderson, I really like from Michigan as an offensive tackle. Oh man, it's difficult. Frank Gore, I see Frank Gore there. This is not the deepest pool of players I've ever seen as far as looking at the different options available. Let's look at the board for tackles. Yeah, there's not a ton. Belton I really like, but I probably would go Ladarius Henderson here from Michigan. That's a tough one. Let's see interior wise. Keegan's there. I want to go Keegan from Michigan. I really loved what I saw from Ladarius Henderson in the national championship game. I mean, you're talking about a guy who really got out and moved well. It wasn't like he really got out and looked terrific. Let's see, edge rusher wise, Jalen Harrell, he's not bad. Cedric Johnson from Mississippi's not bad. Iabi Okianoma from Charlotte is a good edge rusher for sure. Miles Cole's a good edge rusher. Already got the D line taken care of. Let's take a look at linebacker. Let's see. Linebacker. Who are the best linebackers on the board? Now you got Tyron Hopper from Missouri, Jalen Ford from Texas, Curtis Jacobs from Penn State, Muasau from UCLA. I love. Trevin Wallace is an incredible athlete from Kentucky. Nathaniel Watson was the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. Edifon Olafosio from Washington is one of the greatest athletes in the draft. You saw that in Indy. He was amazing. John Trey Hunter from Georgia State is a good linebacker, as is Aaron Casey from Indiana. So there's a lot of linebackers there for sure. If I just went best player available, well, it's tough. Let's see. I think you got to go offensive tackle here. I'm going to go Ladarius Henderson. Got to have an offensive tackle. Henderson's. I love the movement ability, and if you could see him getting to that second level and just destroying people on the move, he was impressive. Now I'm at pick 209, and I think you're just at this point in the draft, you're going best player available. Who really stands out to you? Isaiah Davis, the halfback from South Dakota State, really stood out over the weekend. He just looked fantastic. He's on the board there. But do you go running back? Do you go Muasau from UCLA, who's just one of the most instinctive linebackers? Trevin Wallace, the linebacker from Kentucky, one of the best workout freak athletes I've seen in this draft. Kenny Logan, the safety from Kansas, is a hell of a player. I already mentioned Nathaniel Watson. Blake Watson's a good player, the running back. He's a tremendous athlete. Belton, I like. Sam Hartman is an interesting guy, but you have your quarterback. You went quarterback at the start of the draft. Isaiah Rex is a good player. Just looking at who they have later in this draft on their board, and Pro Football Focus does not have the deepest mock draft out there for sure. They really don't. So, but the Niners are on the board at 209. Okay, so if we went all, who is the very best player that they could potentially get? We're not looking at quarterbacks. Let's see receivers. They got a receiver early in the South Carolina kid Leggett. All right, so we'll just go back to all. Who's the best player on the board that I see here? I'm going to say Isaiah Davis, the halfback from South Dakota State. I mean, he's big, he's fast, he can catch the ball to the backfield. He's really exciting. Now the Niners pick 214, 215 back to back. Who's left? Now they could go with Marcellus Dial, who's a pretty good corner from South Carolina, pretty good workout guy. I'm not loving these options on the mock draft. I guess I'll go with Darius Muasau from UCLA. Good athlete, tackle machine, looked great in the East-West Shrine game. Super instinctive linebacker. could replace Greenlaw in the short term, or at least help special teams and give you quality depth at linebacker. Okay, so now we're at pick 215, and it's really just best player on the board. To me, there's a lot of good ones here. I'm going to say Kenny Logan, the safety from Kansas. I really love Trevin Wallace, but I just took a linebacker. Are you really going to go back-to-back linebackers? That seems unlikely. I'll go Kenny Logan from Kansas. Great athlete at safety, big-time player. Now I'm at pick 249. Okay, well, Trevin Wallace is an incredible athlete. So how do I pass on Trevin Wallace? Nathaniel Watson is the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. So Ulafosio, Edifon Ulafosio, it just looked incredible at the workouts. I mean, he was just unbelievable workout monster. He looked good. He really looked good. So that's a tough one. Do you go with somebody like that? Isaac Rex is a tight end with a lot of talent. But man, to me, it's like Trevin Wallace, the linebacker from Kentucky. I'm going with Nathaniel Watson here. I mean, SEC Defensive Player of the Year. At pick 249, that's a no-brainer. You just got to go there. And so there's the draft. And let's take a look at it. It's Michael Penix, and they give us a D for that pick. Xavier Legette's got a C minus. I really don't care about the grades because I think I know more than these guys over here making those grades. But Penix Jr., so you go quarterback, wide receiver. You get a true number one corner in Max Melton who hits like a truck and runs in the 4.3s. Then you go back-to-back with two really good defensive linemen, Michael Hall Jr., Mason Smith. Then you get your offensive tackle in Ladarius Henderson, more of a developmental guy. Then you go running back with Isaiah Davis, who's a big play guy. Muasau, the linebacker from UCLA, gives you a absolute instinctive fast guy. Kenny Logan gives you a starting caliber safety from Kansas in the 6th round. And then you finish up in the 7th round with Nathaniel Watson, the Defensive Player of the Year in the SEC. Overall, Pro Football Focus gives my draft a C. I'd give it an A. And that's an A draft right there. Penix is going to be, you're going to get way more either from Penix as a player or from Penix in a trade than the value of the 31st pick in the draft. So there's no doubt in my mind that pick's a good pick. Then you're talking Xavier Legette. I think Legette could be their most dynamic receiver. He's big. He's 230 pounds. He's super fast. So now you're so much better on the perimeter because you got a true number one receiver in Legette. You got a true number one corner in Melton. Then you go back-to-back in the 3rd and 4th round with defensive tackles that are going to be able to make a huge impact. I mean, Michael Hall and Mason Smith. Hall's motor, if you watched him at Ohio State, he wore 51. He led the nation in pressure rate as an interior player. He's just moves incredibly well. Mason Smith was a 5-star guy coming out of high school who's like 6'6", 310 and fast. I mean, that guy is just absolutely could be the most dominant player on the entire team. Ladarius Henderson is was started off at ASU, and I love the way he blocked in the national championship game. I mean, this is a 310-pound guy who comes flying downfield looking to pick off bodies. And then Isaiah Davis, if you saw the workout in Indy, I mean, you're talking about a big back who's kind of a high-energy guy who can catch the ball out of the backfield. I think he would be a great complement to what they have. Darius Muasau, the linebacker from UCLA, gives you a guy who I think could start right away. Logan as well, and Watson. I think all those 3 of those guys could be defensive starters, and you're getting them in round 6 and round 7. So in this draft, you didn't get, what didn't you get done? You didn't get You didn't get any, and you got you got corner help, you got safety help, you got linebacker help, you got interior D line help. You didn't get edge rush help. So if you'd have to do the edge rush thing in free agency. So that's the one spot. On D, you didn't get edge rush help. On O, you didn't get guard help really. You got Henderson, but you didn't get that second guard. So you might have to get the guard in free agency. But on offense, you got, a dynamic number 2 quarterback. You've got a dynamic wide receiver in Xavier Legette. You got a really nice running back in Isaiah Davis. You didn't get any tight ends. You didn't get any tight end help. I was hoping for like Mason Pline or somebody like that, but I didn't see. Pro Football Focus didn't even have him on their board. So there you go. Mock Draft 5.0. And now a word from our sponsor, Aura. Have you ever typed your name on the internet and seen all of your private information is online? Are you tired of receiving tons of spam calls from random numbers? Are you receiving more and more of these as time has gone on? Well, that's where Aura, the sponsor of today's show, can really help you out. Data brokers sell your information to scammers and spammers and anyone else who may want to target you. Your full name, your email, your home address, all your records, your health records, who your relatives are. It's all out there. That's why I've been using Aura. Aura shows me which data brokers are selling my information and automatically submits opt-out requests for me. Cleaning up my information not only helps reduce the amount of spam I get, but it also protects me from hackers who could use the information to help them access my social media accounts, my bank accounts, or any other sensitive information. Aura also does so much more to protect me and my family from online threats I can't see. I get other features like antivirus, VPN, password management, parental controls, identity theft insurance, and more without having to download several different apps. It's really easy to set up. And best of all, I get everything at one affordable price. I value my privacy and I value yours. You can go to the link in the description to start your 2-week free trial. All right, there you go. A little word from our sponsor, Aura. Thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show. In this mock, I went with Penix at 31, and I realized they don't need Penix. But, man, Michael Penix looked like the best quarterback in a lot of ways in Indy. And if you're picking 31, and you can get the best and I think Michael Penix is the best quarterback in this draft. That's how I feel about him. So the fact of the matter is, if he's there on the board at 31, and I've done my medicals on the guy, and I feel like his body checks out. I mean, you're talking about a guy who had unbelievable production, went to the combine, has huge hands, threw the ball better than anybody. Michael Penix Jr. is a nice player to have. And if Brock Purdy at any point went down, man, it would be nice to have Penix Jr. Now, it's a lot more about what you can get from Penix for Penix Jr. down the road. And I think you might be able to get multiple number 1s and number 2s from him once he starts to really play. So that's my investment. I'm investing the 31st pick in a cheaper quarterback room and a more valuable trade piece that I can build. I'm thinking down the road. And then I feel like I got as good a receiver as there is in the draft in Legette, as good a corner as there is in the draft in Melton, 2 D linemen that I think are as good as anybody in the draft in Hall and Mason Smith, Ladarius Henderson, who's an outstanding movement tackle, who looked good in 2 different programs, Isaiah Davis, who could wind up being the star of this draft, the sleeper pick overall, and then Darius Muasau and Nathaniel Watson, 2 of the most productive linebackers in the nation. And Kenny Logan, a really good moving safety who I think can step in and make the roster, all from the 214th pick on. So I like the way it shook out. And mock draft 3.0, I'll call it a huge success. I'd love to hear from you. I'll stop sharing that. Love to hear from you guys. What do you think of the mock draft 3.0? Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people going, Michael Penix, what? But I love the upside potential of Penix as a backup or as a trade piece. I think it will be a good long-term business decision for the 49ers if Penix falls to them. to pass up some of their needs in the present for the big payout on the back end in Michael Penix. If I'm going need, I probably would go Darius Robinson from Missouri with that first pick. But instead, I'm going Michael Penix, and I may trade him in a couple of years. But there you go. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle. Thanks to Aura. Thanks to all of you. And I hope you enjoyed Mock Draft 3.0.